Welcome to Alzheimer's Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation as usual as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort.
Here we go. What you think about, you will bring about dementia change. We will.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer's Speaks. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and I'm thrilled that you can join us today. We are going to be talking about a wonderful short film called Old Mother Blackbird, and I can't wait to introduce you to our guest. But first, I'm going to do a couple of shout outs. I've got a couple of events coming up that I wanted to let you know about. On, let's see, September 10th, I will be out in Roseville, Minnesota at City Hall from 1 to 3 doing a program on dementia and denial when people don't think anything is wrong. And then on the 14th, I'll be out in Richfield, Minnesota from 1 to 4, and we are going to be building bridges and breaking barriers for ROCMA's 40th anniversary. And they do an awareness walk and a dementia fair, and I will be speaking with another panelists. We're going to be doing a lot of Q&A, kind of general questions that people have, but there's all kinds of music and trivia and fun that will be had. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to me. And then, of course, I want to give a shout out to Alzheimer's Speaks. We always encourage you to check out our site. We have tons of free resources there. And you can also reach Dementia Map through that, or you can go directly to our sister company at dementia-map.com, again, or alzheimersspeaks.com. And then Twiddle is a wonderful, wonderful company that has sensory products that are ideal for those who are dealing with anxiety. They might just need a little something to fidget with and calm them down. Plus, they have an item called Adapt Wrap, which is great for people who aren't as mobile or get combative during dressing or maybe disrobe as well. And you can go to their website at the number 4 and then Twiddles, plural.com, and you can get 25% off. All you have to do is put in the code AS25. So with no further ado, let's introduce you to our guest today. Well, Sophie, I'm so excited to have you on the show. I appreciate you hanging with us. I know over in Scotland there, it's like 8 o'clock at night, and it's just afternoon for me. So I appreciate you working with the time zone difference here. So welcome to Alzheimer's Speaks.
Thank you, Laurie. It's lovely to be here.
I'm really excited to share the work that you're doing. When I ran across you, I was just like, oh my gosh, I got to get a hold of her and learn more about your work. But before we kind of dive into that, why don't you give people a little bit of background about yourself, if you don't mind?
Okay, so I am a singer and songwriter as my sort of primary trade. I've come up through the music world as a jazz singer, and quite early on in my career started writing my own songs, and that's then more recently I do a lot of teaching as well. I teach voice, I teach jazz vocal techniques, and I do songwriting workshops, all these kind of things. So I enjoy being an educator as well. And then more recently in my life, I was drawn to having a visual expression as part of my creative work. So I have explored photography, and then that's led on to filmmaking. So that's been quite a major shaping of what I've been doing in the last few years, which is completely and utterly unexpected, I have to say. So
Wow.
That's a summary of me.
Well, we kind of get the music thing by looking at your background there with all
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
instruments and things. So that's neat. Well, again, I appreciate you taking the time with us. Now, one of the questions I always ask everybody who comes on the show is, have they been personally touched by dementia in their own family or circle of friends? How about you? What's your story?
Yes, most certainly. I have very close family members who've had Alzheimer's or dementia, and my father has dementia. So yes, very closely touched by it.
Okay,
And,
yeah,
and friends too, friends, especially now that I'm working with more with this organisation that's a dementia-led organisation. So I have various friends in that who are with on the dementia journey too.
okay, great. Yeah, my mom lived with dementia for 30 years. That's what got me into this space. Otherwise,
Right.
I wouldn't be here at all. I
Yeah.
wouldn't know about it like most
Yeah.
people. You don't really know until you get touched on a deep
Yes.
level. And then,
Yes.
boy,
Absolutely.
it's life changing.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things, again, that really attracted me was a post I saw about you talking about Old Mother Blackbird. Why don't you tell us what that is, how it got started, and why you feel it's important?
Okay, well, so Old Mother Blackbird started out in during lockdown. I live in a wee village just about 12 miles south of Edinburgh, and I'm lucky enough to have a garden. So during lockdown, I had space to be outside, which I know a lot of people didn't. And my husband and I we ended up in Scotland having a very hot season in lockdown. We had a very hot summer. So it was actually lovely to be able to sit outside. However, a blackbird family took up residence in our garden. So every time we went out into the garden, and most especially our cat, the mother would come and scream at us incessantly until we ended up having to go inside every time. She would literally physically chase the cat inside the house. And I I watched her for weeks and weeks being extraordinarily protective and loyal and brave and persistent in looking after her family. And I found it really resonated with me as a mother. And I had recently become an empty nest mother. My children had grown up and moved out. So watching her go through all that and then seeing as her brood left, I found it very powerful just sitting there watching it all. So I then wrote a song, which is often a way that I process things that have been stirred up in me. And for some reason, I'd been exploring short filmmaking just prior to that, and I was driven to create a film to go with my song, which is it's a story about Old Mother Blackbird and her looking after her babies and shouting at everybody that comes out and being brave and all these kind of things, and then how the empty nest resonates forever, really, after the babies have flown the nest. So I then created what's called an experimental film, which is kind of part animation. I made the characters in the story, which includes me actually, out of collage, and then with a very deep learning curve, I spent days and days filming it to match the song, accompany the song. And then the short film that came from that process was then picked up by this amazing festival called the Women Over 50 Film Festival, who had actually screened my previous film poem. And they're an extraordinary film festival that focus on screening films that are made by or about women over 50, and they have the most extraordinary range of short films that they represent and promote, and they're absolutely brilliant. So anyway, they screened my film, which was very exciting, and then there's been more stuff that's happened, which I don't know, I think you may have questions about that later on, but that's how my Old Mother Blackbird came into being. She was a real blackbird and may still be. It's difficult to know whether it's her that comes back each year, or she's certainly not as vocal as she was anyway.
Well, it is funny how protective they are, though. If there's a
Yeah,
nest and people are around, and I'm sure, like you said with the cats, we
absolutely,
gotta
yeah.
get that out of here, or we're dead meat. Yeah,
And
with that.
our cat used to look like she had a headache
Mhm.
because of this bird yelling at her all the time.
Yeah, well, it's interesting how nature stories are much aligned with us and in our
Absolutely.
behaviors, even though we think we're bigger and stronger and different. When you
Mm.
really sit back, it's like, boy, we're really so aligned. And,
Completely. And I think having
and
that time and space during lockdown really allowed that sort of depth of seeing that exactly what you've said, and it's quite beautiful.
yeah. Well,
Mm.
why don't we take just a little snippet and show them, kind of give them a taste, but not all of it. And then we'll come back and talk a little bit more.
In a nest, in a tree, by the wall in our garden, a family of blackbirds did grow. And each day from the tree there came a loud warning to all those who passed by below. The old Mother Blackbird with ruffled brown feathers would sound her alarm call each hour of the day. And no matter how hungry or tired she was feeling, all she would do.
So, Sophie, like I said, I've watched this several times now, and I'm just so intrigued with the storyline, the music, the technology, just the way you pulled everything together. Can you tell people a little bit about what they saw and why you did what you did with the film?
Well, it's one of these curious things as a creative person. There's a mystery even to oneself as a creative practitioner. I don't completely understand. I think probably initially writing the song was part of my way of processing my journey as a mother, and that I am now in an empty nest, and at this age of my life as a woman. So I think that there was some assimilating of that going on for me, and seeing that through her, which has always been one of the main motivations for me as a songwriter, is a way of processing things that I am experiencing or seeing in life. And the visual expression is something that I've been drawn to quite strongly for a long time now. I felt as time has gone on in my life, I've wanted to express some of the things I've needed to communicate through my music. I've wanted to have a visual angle on that as well. And the collage is something I've experimented with just purely for fun over years. I've always enjoyed collage, and I don't know, I have this sort of, I don't even think about whether I can do it or not. I just do it. And then see what it tells me to do. So the process kind of intrigues me as well. It's difficult to explain completely why or how it happens, but it's a drive to communicate, and I think the universal story of motherhood, especially at the stage I was at in that moment in my life, felt I had a strong drive to communicate that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, so it's always a mystery. It's a mystery, a lot of it. And there's a craft. I mean, I've been a creative, I've been a songwriter for a very long time now, and a filmmaker for a very short time. But I received some mentoring. Actually, I received a bursary to get some mentoring as a filmmaker, as an older practitioner, sort of expanding my creative form. I had some mentoring, and my mentor very much talked to me about the fact that I'd been creative in one genre, but a lot of those skills actually transfer, over to other creative expression. So that was nice. I felt like through my visual expression, I was able to lean on what I'd learned as a songwriter, really, and a storyteller through song. So it's a very interesting process. And there's so much to learn. It's going to be never ending for sure.
Well, yeah, especially with technology changing and
Yeah,
stuff too. But even when you mentioned about doing a collage, that you just kind of let it happen, and
yeah,
I think that's, to me, I'm not an artist by any stretch of the imagination, though I appreciate art in all forms. But I love the different angles and the twists and turns that everybody comes to the table with, because
yes,
it's like, oh, I wouldn't have thought of that, or that's,
yes,
it just
absolutely.
it expands my mind and my heart, and it just makes me feel full.
Yeah, no, that's great, and that's a beautiful thing, isn't it? And I certainly get that for myself as a creative person. I also, in the workshops I do, because I use improvisation art in the work I do musically, and when I'm teaching as well, that's a beautiful way of facilitating that in other people, for them to explore their own creativity through sound, and also writing with my songwriting workshops that I do. And I love that, and being able to facilitate exactly what you've just described there. It's such an honor, actually, to walk alongside someone once they start exploring all that kind of thing. It's beautiful and very powerful.
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure, powerful, and in so many different ways, because I think it's powerful to yourself, being able to see you create something,
Mm,
and if it turned out the way you thought it was going to or not, typically you still see something in it,
yes.
or it urges you on to, well, let's try it again. And maybe I'm going to twist or turn, whatever the projection's going to be with it. I mean, there's just so much opportunity. And then for others to see it, and even though they didn't do the hands-on creation, it gets kind of the mind and the heart, to me, working as one in
Yeah,
terms of what's behind this and what does it mean. And it means something different a lot of times to each of us, because we have
absolutely. Yeah.
different histories.
Yep.
And I think that that's a cool thing to expose, especially in the times we live in, where everything seems so black and white and this is right and this is wrong. It really opens up the door to that. Some people call it the messy middle, but I think it's just a beautiful flood of colors,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
opportunities to
Yeah.
say, there's so many different ways to approach pretty much anything in life. And
Yeah.
it depends on us, on what technique are we going to choose. Are we going to stay rigid and in form, or are we going to be more fluid? Are we going to let our eyes roll over to see what the next guy does and go, I'm going to mix these two together, a little of theirs, a little of
Yeah.
mine, and come up with
Yeah.
something totally different,
Yeah.
that I didn't even think existed before.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely. It's
so I think,
fascinating, and I think for me, as what's been very interesting for me in this recent part of my career, where I have been using filmmaking as part of my creative expression, is that's obviously I'm very, very inexperienced with that. Um, but some of the people, for example, in the film festival that have screened my work, they resonate. Even though I'm a beginner, they resonate with what I do, and I see that as a very experienced songwriter when I work with people that I'm doing songwriting workshops with. I can learn so much from someone who's never written a song before. That beautiful inexperience sometimes creates the most fresh creativity, Yeah, and you can learn from and resonate with all different levels of experience, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing.
yeah, art really makes us feel the story behind, and again, we all will feel it a little bit different depending on how
Yeah.
we were raised and what we experienced, and
Yes.
that's a good thing. That's a
Yeah.
good thing,
Yeah.
to be able to talk
Absolutely.
about.
Yeah.
Now, you come from a family of musicians. So tell us a little bit about your career, as a jazz artist. And then also, what did your family think about you opening this door to the visual side of your art?
Well, yes, I think they're quite bemused by all that, because it has been quite a change. Yeah, so I grew up. My parents were both medics professionally, but they were also semi-professional jazz musicians. So my brothers, I have two brothers I grew up with who we grew up in this family where we would go to sleep as young children with my parents having jazz parties and live jazz being played in the house, and that was an amazing way to learn jazz actually, because it really went in our ears, I think. So the three of us ended up becoming professional jazz musicians fairly early. My brothers trained as medics and then left to become jazz musicians. I did a degree in psychology, but during my university time, I was just gigging every night, really. So I left uni. Once I graduated, I then just became a full professional musician. So yeah, so that and I've always been slightly I was the oldest child in the family, and I was always very much the rebel stroke black sheep of the family. So I've always kind of carved out paths that wasn't necessarily expected. So I think the filmmaking probably fits into that. And I think bemused is probably the best word for how they are about it.
What's she up to now, huh? But that's neat. What were their thoughts when they saw, what you pulled together in this film? Were they shocked that you were able to do what you did?
Yeah, I think so, because I think a lot of people were, really, because it's sort of very much behind the scenes learning. I did a lot of learning during lockdown again because I had the time.
Mhm.
I learned how to edit video, which I absolutely love. It's a huge passion of mine now, I have to say. I love it. But I know it's all that stuff that you do behind the doors and not publicly, and then suddenly you produce something. It's like, whoa, where did that come from? Um, but yeah, it's nice. I quite like surprising them, actually. Feels
Yeah,
like a good thing to do.
yeah. Do your brothers talk about maybe stepping into that piece at all? Did it spark anything in them?
Well, I mean, they're very creative people too, and they do all their, they do a lot of very interesting work. Um, but yeah, I mean, my stuff, I suppose, is very shaped by that. They're identical twins and male, obviously, so they've had quite a different route, and I see things quite differently to them, I think, and react to things and sort of reveal things quite differently. So I think they always like, okay.
Oh, that's neat. Now, you also created a children's book and greeting cards and things to go along with Old Mother Blackbird. Tell us a little bit more about that expansion too.
Yeah, so well, the greeting cards actually became I did a series of greeting cards before getting into filmmaking. That was one of my steps of visual expression. So I live in the countryside. It's really beautiful, and I walk. um I'm a walker, and I started taking camera out with me and found that if by framing what I was looking at, it made me really start thinking about how I was feeling, and that would often lead to songwriting. But I also started playing around with the images that I was creating, and I affected them on Photoshop with watercolor textures and paper textures, and produced a series of greeting cards that I sell at concerts. So I have on the back of the greeting card, there's a QR code that links through to one of my songs, and there's also my lyrics are on the back. And they've been really successful, actually. It's instead of like having a single or something to sell, if people like the song, they'll come and buy a card, or if they like the image on the card, they'll buy a card. So that's been really lovely. And then that I decided to do that once I'd made the film, because I had all these collage pieces of, or collage characters that I'd used in my animation. Um, so I've done those, and my cousin, who's a theatre maker, when she saw the film, she said this should be a children's book. So it was because of her that I then made it into a book as well. And I'm really excited about that, actually, because I've always wanted to have something in book form. So that's very exciting for me, and again is proving popular whenever I perform the song. It does tend to be one that can create quite strong emotions, I have to say, on concerts, which is lovely. It's
Mhm.
lovely for all different reasons. As you say, people react so differently. But that for me is always makes me feel good about something I've written if it can access a lot of people for different reasons in that way. So
Wow. So as far as steps visually, what came in what order from your cards to your book to the collage to the film?
yeah, so it was song first, and then I'd already done cards of just of landscape work prior to that, and I had done a few film poems using visuals from around my area where I walk, and then I did the song, and that moved into the animation to go with the song, creating a collage and then making that into a kind of experimental animation. Um, and then from that, I decided to do another set of cards that went with that and the children's book. So they came after the film and the song.
Okay, okay. That's kind of what I figured, but I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah.
And again, not that there's any right or wrong mode, but it just shows the opportunity. I'm just thinking of even looking at your scarf. It's like, oh, you should have scarves imprinted with your blackbird on there. And there's so many different things that will remind people of those feelings of the song and of the
Yeah.
story and stuff. It's kind of
Yes.
neat. And yeah, it's unlimited what you could probably have printed
Yes.
up.
Yes. I think what I'm exploring at the moment is trying to figure out how I can get that out there, aside from just concerts.
Mhm.
So that's the challenge always, is how that can expand. But yes, absolutely. And I like that idea of scarf, Laurie. I might have to nick that from you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's t-shirts, there's bags, I mean, people do all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah,
You probably
absolutely.
get a jeweler to even do some earrings for
Yeah.
you,
Yeah. No, I'm
so
liking this. I'm liking this. No, I'm storing it all in there.
yeah, because I know, like, when I go to something and I buy something and someone comments, it's like, then that gives me an opportunity to share the story that I saw and,
Yeah.
raise and elevate, the
Yeah.
artist at hand and stuff. And it's just something unique and different and interesting to keep people engaged,
Yeah.
which I find fun too. And I think that that's an important thing. We text and we email, but we need to talk to one
Yeah.
another, and
Yes. Yeah.
and to be able to express those emotions, to me, I think, is a real important piece of our humanity that's kind of gotten tossed to the side a little bit with all of our technology and,
Yeah.
and the way we live our lives these days.
Yeah. No, that's lovely to hear the threads you create then from other artists. That's really lovely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Very neat. Well, if you're just tuning in right now, we have been talking with Sophie Bancroft, who is over in Scotland, and she is an award-winning short film artist. We have been talking about Old Mother Blackbird. She is a singer-songwriter. She's an author. She's an artist on many different levels. It's just been a fascinating conversation. So you might want to rewind if you just popped in now and go back and hear her whole story. We're going to continue talking, but I also wanted to let you know you can always go to her website, which is sophiebancroft.co.uk, and she is on Instagram as Sophie Bancroft Music. She's on X or Twitter as SJ Bancroft. She's on Facebook and YouTube, and we'll have all of this stuff in the show notes, so you can easily find her for sure. I also want to, during this time, just give a shout out to Q for Good. They are like my favorite webmaster. I've gone through many of them over the years, and I've never found somebody so easy to work with. And what I love is their whole philosophy is about social good and really engaging and lifting people. And they play that out in the delivery of their services. They reduce my stress when I'm crazy and going, oh, it's not working or something's not connecting right. And they're like, calm down, we got it taken care of. They communicate beautifully. So you're not left without a call or an email or a ping. You know exactly what's going on, and just really genuinely out there to help people and speak normal language, which sometimes, you know, you get a webmaster and you're like, can you come down here? That's way over my head type thing. So I would encourage you to check out qforgood.com. And if you mention my name or Alzheimer's Speaks, you can get 10% off too as well. But I am a true believer when you find something that works, spread the word on there. We're real good at spreading the word on things that we don't like, but I think it's important to tell people what is working as well. So with that, I want to get back to Sophie, because I want you to also talk about your work with the Deepness Dementia Media Group and the Dementia the Musical. But I should first ask, did we cover everything on old Mother Blackbird?
Well, there's one quite major thing that has happened subsequently, actually. The Women Over 50 Film Festival, who screened Old Mother Blackbird, they were approached at the beginning of this year by Virgin Atlantic to put together a series of short films that would be suitable for a dementia responsive program on their in-flight entertainment. And wonderfully for me, Old Mother Blackbird was one of the short films that was chosen. So currently, my Old Mother Blackbird is flying across the Atlantic on a daily basis, which is just amazing. So very exciting for me as a filmmaker to have that opportunity. And also for the film festival, they do a lot of they take programs of short films around care homes. So taking interesting and relevant short films around so that people can see them in that setting. And so it's been very exciting for the film festival as well to have that relationship with Virgin Atlantic come in to them. And I think it's from what I understand, it's going very, very well, the program on the in-flight entertainment, and they've just extended the showing of them by another 3 months, which is fantastic. So we're going to be on there for 9 months in total at this point, which is wonderful.
Oh, how cool is that? I just love
Yeah,
Sir Branson and his work, you know, with what
yeah,
he's doing. I mean, he really has embraced the whole dementia friendly
yeah,
vibe and, walks the talk with stuff. So
yeah,
congratulations.
yeah.
That's a
Thank
real big
you.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very, again, very unexpected. I would never have thought I would have had a film, let alone a film being shown on Virgin Atlantic. So it's really wonderful, and that's a lovely way for me to feel that it's getting out there to more people,
Oh,
which is
sure. Sure.
fantastic.
Well, why don't you tell people a little bit about Deepness Dementia Media? You know, what exactly is that? I'm familiar with their work and I love what they do, but
Yeah.
give people the inside scoop there.
Yeah, so that they're an amazing organization, founded by and run by an extraordinary man called Ron Coleman, who has early onset dementia. So it's an organization that's run by people with dementia and is very much to promote living well with dementia. And I think they fundamentally see themselves as an arts organization, and it's encouraging people to explore different activities and, um, get together, be united, and so that they do amazing. They have a radio station, they have a TV station, and Ron has in the last few years been writing theatre plays. He's an extraordinary writer, and he'd seen some of my work as I was expanding into doing filmmaking as well as my songwriting. He was interested in what I was doing, and over the last few years has commissioned me to write various pieces of music to go with some of the projects they've been doing. And then he wrote a musical, which is telling the story of the three Scottish dementia activists who are still going to this day, they were diagnosed about 25 years ago and were very quickly written off. They all had early onset dementia, and one was a civil servant one was a nurse and one was a social worker, all all quite high up in their profession. And really, from the moment they were diagnosed, they were written off. And the characters that they are, in the strength of character they have, they all individually decided that they would fight this, and as a result have really transformed a lot of what goes on in Scotland. And they've given talks around the world at conferences and really made quite an impact on how people with dementia are viewed. There's still obviously a very long way to go, but so the musical is kind of telling their story a little bit. There's a lot of humor, there's a lot of, menace and melancholy, the whole range of stuff really that goes with the context. And Ron asked me to write the music and be the musical director for the musical, which is an amazing new experience for me. There's also one of the songs is from another amazing songwriter, so that's it's a very exciting project, and we were very grateful to get a significant chunk of funding from Creative Scotland at the end of last year that is enabling us to tour all the main theatres around Scotland in autumn. So we're on October the 12th is our opening night in Edinburgh. So
Wow.
it's very exciting. We're going into rehearsals on the 16th of September. And and we've got an amazing cast of 4 phenomenal professional actors, an amazing production team. So it's really exciting stuff. And for me, it's a whole new area of work for me, and I'm absolutely loving it. And very interesting for me as a songwriter to write in this context, actually. So 4 of the songs I wrote are kind of biographical about the 3 of the songs are biographical about the 3 Scottish dementia activists, and that's been very amazing experience for me as a songwriter to work in that way, and also to play the actual people, the songs that are about their life story. Very powerful, moving experiences. And the other character in the musical is actually the system. The character is called Rigid System. So it's amazing, very, very exciting, and it's going to be powerful because it's quite underlying political stuff as well, questioning how people with dementia are treated a lot of the time. And so it's going to be powerful. And I think also it's called Dementia the Musical, so that's such an unusual set of words to have together. It's sparking a lot of interest, which is great.
Well, I love that it's covering 3 different individuals, and it's roping in the system, because there is so much dysfunction and things that are wrong. I don't care where you are in the world,
Yeah.
and how how much the system can beat their chest and say they've got this down and they're helping many. When you talk with the families, they have a very different viewpoint on that, and that's important, I think, to get out. Are any of the 3 individuals, are they all still alive right now for your?
Yes, they're all still alive. Yes.
Oh, cool.
Living at home. So they're amazing, and I think because they decided to fight individually, and then they met as a result of that and have become this very strong. They formed an organization from the 3 of them, which has grown into lots of different organizations. But I think because they've had to learn so many things since their dementia diagnosis, and they've experimented with so many different forms of expression and communication, it's really kept them well for a long time. They're extraordinary people. It's a privilege to have met them, and I know they've helped so many people go through their transition from pre-diagnosis to post-diagnosis.
Can you name them? Is that something, or is that
Sure.
something?
Yeah. So James McKillop,
Okay.
Nancy McAdam, and Agnes Houston.
Their voices, and I'm not just talking those 3, but there are so many dementia voices that have had such a massive impact in terms of changing the system and fighting back and pushing down the stigma and giving hope. I mean, in my eyes, again, and I've been in this for a while, since 2009 when I formally stepped in, and I stepped in just as a frustrated daughter going, where's the help? Where's the resources? Where's the other guys like our family? Because there was no connection there. And we've come a long ways since 2009, but we're not even near close to where we need to be at all. And so I think I can't wait to be able to see it. Are they going to be doing that in a film format at all?
I hope we will. I hope it will be getting videoed, and there is also hope that we will do more touring with it in the future. It feels very important.
Mm-hmm.
It's an important message. So yeah, there will certainly be video of it, and but hopefully we will get further afield than Scotland with it.
Yeah. Well, it's a universal message. And one of the things I think that people don't always understand until they are kind of in the trenches with this is knowing that it's universal makes everybody stronger, because they feel more connected, and they're making friends with people around the world that, that might not have been their thing before. I mean, I didn't communicate with people all over the world prior to doing this, and now it's like, oh, what time zone are you in? I mean, it's just, it's just different. But it's comforting, and it's so fun to talk when people are, kindred spirits and liked mind, and exposing something like this gives other people ideas of what they could step into and the possibilities. So it's empowering on so many levels. It's a beautiful thing. Let the team know. I would love to have them on the radio show to talk about that when they're ready. Too. That would be really fun to help spread the word of that as well.
I'll pass that all on to them.
Now, anything else that you wanted to cover on Deepness Dementia Media or the Dementia the Musical, the play?
Well, I think we're literally about to go into rehearsal, so it's all moving into production time now, which is very exciting. There is a page on the Deepness Dementia Media website focusing in on the musical, but there's lots of information on their website about all the other things that they do. And there's the radio station, as I say, which is amazing, and TV station, so worth checking out from wherever you are, really. And they've got lots of very interesting projects in the plan, looking at doing. There's a whole load of things. I mean, I think the website will keep everyone up to date on that. But definitely worth keeping an eye on what they're doing, because they're an extraordinary community of people with some amazing thoughts and plans and ideas going on.
Yeah, well, we'd love them to join Dementia Map. Same with you with Old Mother Blackbird. It doesn't cost any money to be able to sign up. I mean, you can if you want to, but you don't have to. But it's just a nice way to get some extra exposure, and even writing articles that we can keep pushing out. To raise profile and things like that as well. So, do you have any more ideas for Old Mother Blackbird?
Well, I've got a few more now, having spoken to you, Laurie. So that's great. No, I mean, that's really helpful to hear your thoughts, I have to say, because it's all, I don't know, it's a funny thing as a creative person. You sort of go through all this time and you create something, and then you tend to go and start getting involved in another creative project and then create something else. And, we never, often we never have the resources to really dig deep into how we can spread what we do work-wise. But I think because I've had this amazing or Old Mother Blackbird has had this amazing airing through the Women Over 50 Film Festival, and then the Virgin Flights, and it's coincided with me doing this Dementia the Musical. There's something it's kind of amplified everything around it somehow.
Yep.
So I am committing quite a lot of my energy and resources into seeing how I can spread it out a little bit more. Um, but I've been so busy writing music for the musical and teaching on summer schools. I'm now that the musical is actually going to start happening, I can start doing, spreading out a bit further on these other things, which is exciting. Actually, it feels exciting. So
Yeah, very
I'll
much
keep you
so.
posted, though. I'll keep you posted on
Oh,
on,
please do. Please
especially if
do.
I get a scarf.
Yeah, yeah. That would be amazing. Would be absolutely amazing. Well, in wrapping up our conversation, again, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to be with us, Sophie. This has just been, it's really uplifting. I mean, I just feel lighter talking to you and what's going
Oh, that's
on.
lovely.
It's
Oh,
very inspiring and very fun. And I love to see the collaborations and just the way things kind of weave together in these
yeah,
unexpected ways. I think
yeah,
when it comes from the heart, those things just kind of happen all on
yeah,
their own.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's pretty neat. Again, people can go to her website, sophiebancroft.co.uk. She is on Instagram, X, I still call it Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and we'll also put in the Deepness Dementia Media website there too for people to be able to find so that they can find Dementia the Musical as well, and their radio show and all they have to offer there. I know they have a wonderful newsletter that they send out
yeah.
and things. So very cool. And to our listeners, I just want to thank you. And as always, I want to ask you to be a giver of hope. Join Alzheimer's Speaks and just like, click, and share this information. I don't ask that because I'm chasing numbers. I ask that because I think this is information people need to hear. And I know as a family member, I was lost and didn't know where to find it. And stories like this inspire, they lift, they give hope, and they make connections. And to me, that's what's missing out there is this organic feeling of we're a tribe and together we're more powerful and we can really make a difference. So, it doesn't cost you any money, takes very little time for those likes, click, and shares, but they really matter. They can really make a difference to all the wonderful guests that we have here on Alzheimer's Speaks. So thank you again, Sophie, and thank you to our audience. I appreciate you being with us today. And don't forget to check out Alzheimer's Speaks. We have tons of free educational resources there, and you can just go to alzheimersspeaks.com or visit Dementia Map at dementiamap.com. Until next time, bye now.